testing this disc out to see if it works. Anybody dizzy yet? There we go.
You want us to get closer together?
Okay, it says record, but I don't see anything in the...
Oh, got the lens closed.
Lynn ain't on.
Go, you're ready.
Hi, my name is Barbara Kemp, and I want to thank y'all for coming to the workshop today. I'll stop for a minute and let you scan faces.
Camera crack.
Okay, today I want to talk to you about a learning disability, dyslexia. It's kind of hard to know exactly what dyslexia is unless you've ever been acquainted with it. And I'll have to say that my family, we've had a little bit of contact and know a little bit about this subject. Our son was diagnosed at an early age, and not only did he have to cope with this learning disability, but we as a family more or less had to cope and help him learn how to, one of the greatest difficulties he had was trying to learn to read. And that brings me to the first question. Have you ever wondered why reading is so difficult for some, why some kids just can't seem to get it, especially to try to get it back to the written page? Let's briefly take a moment to look at what dyslexia is. According to Sally Shaywitz in her book, she wrote it in like 2003, it's a learning disability that is neurological in origin. And despite normal intelligence, doesn't matter how smart a person may be, and I'll be referring to my son a lot because we've dealt with this firsthand, and we had teachers that would say he looks so smart, but his report card never showed it. He struggled all the way through school. It doesn't matter how smart a person may look, they simply can't read. Have you ever heard of word blindness? Our son would complain, "Mom, the words crawl on the page. Mom, I just can't see it. It's like it all runs together." And we could hand him a page full of text, it would blow his mind. I mean, it's like we finally had to learn to take a sheet of paper and cover the whole page and just let him read one sentence at a time because the whole page of text just blew him away. Sometimes there's blank spaces in the words that maybe a word like submit, they might see S-U-M-T and the B and the I is left out. There's blank spaces. There's spatial disorders that go along with this learning disability, and that is in regard to the positions of things in space. Sometimes a person feels like they have to touch the wall when walking down a hallway, or there can be symptoms like riding an elevator, you need to hold on to something. Every symptom doesn't apply to every person. There's many symptoms that go along with this. I've even, after studying, thought, I know that I have this. I'm scared silly of driving over bridges, overpasses. If I could just hold on to something. And that sort of has to do with this spatial disorder. A dyslexic person is very disorganized. I used to joke and tell my children, I'm going to get a dump truck and we're going to shovel out Kenny's room. He just couldn't keep it straight, no matter what we did to try to help him. I remember going and looking in his locker and thinking, bless my baby. His desk, papers was just all in disarray. And one day it dawned on me, this is sort of what's going on in his brain. It's just all mixed up. A dyslexic person takes everything literally. I can remember the day that Kenny went into a classroom and his teacher said, I'll give an A to everybody that'll buy me a pair of boots. Well, Kenny walked down the hall with an envelope and he was going to take that money to buy Coach Sims some boots because he wanted an A. Now that's how desperate he was to make an A. And what's sad, a dyslexic suffers frustration. Their frustration levels are very high because the children would laugh and make fun. The teacher would pass out papers, and some of you may can relate. And what'd you make, Kenny? F. That's very disheartening for any student. What causes a learning disability of this nature? On the website www.help4u, Cheryl Lucino tells in her article that research is finding that the corpus callosum in the brain of dyslexics is faulty. Now, after taking a biological psychology class, I learned that the corpus callosum is a bundle of nerves that connects your right brain and your left brain. And some of you may know that right-handed people, they call them left-brainers. Left-handed people, they call them right-brainers. My husband, who's recording this video, is left-handed, and he'll tease us all the time and tell us, you know, I don't make mistakes because I'm in my right mind. And I kind of like that play on words. But have you ever heard the saying that somebody has got their wires crossed? Literally in the brain, this is what happens. The right brain and the left brain sort of get confused with what they're supposed to do. And for a dyslexic, the left side, in most people, is responsible for language and speech and reasoning and writing, but for the dyslexic, it's like this part of the brain doesn't work correctly. And so the right part is more dominant, and that's why a lot of dyslexics are so talented. The right side is responsible for spatial and creativity, music, imagination, feelings, and emotions. Now, our son can play just about any kind of musical instrument that there is, and he's very talented. In your brain, both sides must work together. And I recently had to take a quiz to see if I was a left-brainer or right-brainer. And I remember answering all the questions and thinking, oh my goodness, I am mixed up. And at the end of the quiz, it sort of, to me, was comical. If you can, you know, do more things with the right or the left, or you're just balancing it all out, you're called a whole-brainer. According to J.M. Fletcher and his book on learning disabilities in 2007, dyslexics, they use different methods of learning. Most dyslexics need visuals to learn. If you can show a picture of something or a drawing, they can just about do it better than someone that could read the book. A lot of them are hands-on. I know that our son worked closely with my husband when he was adding on to our house, and Kenneth taught him how to measure boards and how to do, and today our son is very successful in doing add-ons and building on and remodeling his house. He's done a super good job. A lot of dyslexics learn by process of association, and that would be me. I have to associate things in order to remember something. How many of you could, if I were to ask you the names of the Great Lakes, could you just spit them out? Okay, there's an acronym for this, HOMES, H-O-M-E-S. H for Huron, O for Ontario, M for Michigan, E for Erie, S for Superior. And now you'll probably never forget them. Children with any of these symptoms, what was that?
I said I forgot, all right.
Oh, that's okay, that's all right. Children with any of these symptoms, they need to be evaluated. They may qualify for teacher modifications and reading interventions. Now for our son, this was some 25 years ago, and back then we didn't have the intervention that we have now. We didn't actually know as much about it as we do now. And we just had to teach him to cope, and for him it was really hard. And we didn't actually have him tested officially until his senior year in high school. And this is so that he could get help with going to college or whatever his desires were in life. And he tested at that point for everything that a blind person would. He qualified for talking books and tutors and one-on-one help in the classroom, and he even was successful in winning a scholarship. Now that we know the causes and the symptoms of dyslexia and a little bit about what causes it, I'd like to complete this story that I've been telling you about. Our son, he had a teacher that took interest in him when he was in the 8th grade. Her name was Miss Bex. Some of you may know her. And she taught speech along with her reading class. And this was just super good for Kenny. He was able to go and make these speeches, and you know, my heart cried as a mother because my other children were able to excel and go to literary rally, and they would come home with trophies and they had done well. And I thought, my poor boy, what can he do? Well, he went to state literary rally, placed first in impromptu speaking, and came home with his trophy. So we were really blessed and touched by this, and really grateful in our hearts for Miss Specs. It seems like she was able to reach out, you know, and search this out in her students, and she could always find their strengths, and she didn't concentrate on their weaknesses. And the Lord has really helped our son. He's gone on and has been called into the ministry, and he is very successful today. I have a picture of him. Say, Kenny, a young man with his wires crossed. He's fearfully and wonderfully made by God. He's a living success full of love, life, hope, a wife, and a family. If you know of anyone today that's having difficulty in reading with any of these symptoms, I would advise you the first thing to do is to ask for an evaluation to get them help, because early intervention is the key to their success. Thank you.
I have all of them symptoms.
Thanks for